I go back to that point about the health and safety executive in the UK. For those of you that are based here, if you haven't been in touch with them, they are an excellent source of information on this. So they're the influences. And again, and I must stop saying and again, suggested approach that we take might not be for everybody, because of course you're not necessarily in the same area as us. Once you've taken your brief and you've selected where you're going or what order that's going to be, you've briefed your suppliers, I think that it's fundamentally important that when you do brief your clients, or your suppliers rather, that you keep them in the loop all the time, encourage them to interrogate your brief as well. Because we do it with our own clients, be they internal, external, but you should encourage your suppliers to actually interrogate your brief. I go back to that point about what is creativity. Once you've established what people are looking for, it makes life easier. Your supplier responses, and they're your reviews for the proposal. The proposal that you finally deliver to your client. We then go back to the destinations and start dispatching risk assessments, because as I say, from our side, we have somebody that looks after that. And we work all over the world, so 300-400 events a year. So in doing those, we do get a bit of an idea about what can go wrong in what different places and how you can sort of limit that risk. Site inspections, of course, they're an absolute perfect way of just detecting how good, safe a venue might actually be. And then once we've finalised all of our documentation, we get everybody to sign. And I think the other reason for that is it's more than a tick box exercise. Nobody really signs things, or shouldn't sign things, without actually having a good look through them. And then of course you deliver your project. The creativity is going to start a long way back. I guess that's taken from your brief. Some of the things that we need to consider in anywhere that we're going, it's not limited to all of this. But you've got to be quite a brave person if you start putting events on in places that have the negative of all of these. I mean, you look at your political stability right the way through to, as we've said there, religious tolerance. We hear constantly on the news about, Brits particularly, that go to certain countries around the world and don't necessarily take into account what the local laws, or more importantly, what the local customs might be. There's more. There's crime, there's diseases, standard of accommodation. I think professional support is a big one. Quite often, countries or destinations may not necessarily, this may be quite new to them, so they may be looking to you for an awful lot of guidance. Hopefully most of us in here have the ability to go and get that guidance. So we would say that all of these points, massively important when it comes to actually choosing your destination or your venues in the first place. Going on from there, I put this one in because it does happen. Maybe some of us have some experience of where things have gone wrong, but there's a few things I've put up there. You may remember this boat capsizing in Bahrain in 2006. I do believe people lost their lives on that one. And the reality was that that boat wasn't licensed for sailing. It was brand new. It was perfectly fine, but it hadn't gone through the licensing process. And my understanding is that they had somewhere in the region of about double the capacity that was going to be licensed for. Quad bike accident in Zambia. Now, quad bikes are in everybody's proposals, especially if people want a little bit of fun and excitement. But again, we've taken a decision at P&M that we'll put quad bikes in, but you're looking at how you can use those. We won't let quad bikes go into a proposal if they are manual gears, for example. If they're automatic, it allows people to ride them without taking their eye off the ball, quite literally. And we're always hearing of occasions of mass food poisoning and the likes that go on. So all of these certainly could be prevented if you're looking at proper risk assessment. Again, with those of you that do actually supply any of these solutions, if you like, to the likes of agencies for your events, we need to be really, really careful on these. Transportation licenses, very, very obvious stuff, but I happened to be in Peru a few years ago and speak Spanish, so I'm sat on the coach and I'm listening to the bus driver who suddenly stops on a highway, and another bus coming the other way stops as well, and they both rolled down the window to talk to each other, and I actually heard the other bus driver asking if our bus driver had his license with him. They were going to swap licenses. Now, it's such an obvious thing because you book your suppliers and you expect them to have gone through these sort of rigorous, not really so rigorous, but some of the processes that we would just think as you take as read. You need to be careful of that. Vehicles up to standard, life-saving equipment on boats, safety briefings and guidelines. As we say, you can't minimize risk to the point of no existence, but you can certainly minimize it by taking some various precautions. Hygiene at F&B outlets. We would never pay for a meal ourselves if a place looked a little bit grimy around the edges, but it's surprising the amount that actually do end up in pitches. Alcohol offered on events, particularly. I think this is probably the biggest hot potato of all, because at what point does your responsibility end? Everything's a lot more creative with a bit of alcohol in there. First aid facilities and emergency planning and procedures. And I would say one of the other massive issues here is communication, not just the obvious of speaking somebody's language, but equipment that might be provided on how to actually understand to use it. Risks that might affect you. That picture is the Corinthia in Malta. That's not put there for any other reason other than it was a nice picture of a hotel. If you take a venue, it need it be a hotel, it might be a restaurant or whatever, the influences again on that we go through at the start of a process would cover everything from the F&B to the obvious emergency exits, the people, the operating licenses and so on. Again, a lot of that is very, very easy to overlook, particularly when you are looking for something that's going to knock your socks off in terms of creativity. So that would be the venue. Suppliers, insurances. I don't know, has anybody here actually come across this as a problem when you're asking any of your suppliers for copies or whether or not there are insurance certificates in place? Has anybody come across this as a problem? Only us then. We have come across this as quite a big problem in the past. But your restaurants, your venues, transportation, it's pretty much the same as before, emergency procedures and so on. So it's almost exactly the same whether you're assessing particular venues or the suppliers that are carrying out a duty in your name. And I think very importantly, for those of us that are able to, we need to support our suppliers. There's just no point in going out there expecting them to do everything themselves when quite honestly you can explain and support them. And we would say that you do need to invest that time in developing, if you can, industry and certainly countrywide risk assessment or leading risk management procedures. If you are able to, have somebody who's dedicated to that, because the more familiar they are with processes and so on, the more obvious and the easier it will be. Dedicating or developing a series of in-depth checklists, very obvious stuff, but surprising the amount that don't do that. We've recently had people come from other big agencies in the UK to join us at P&MM, and we've learned things from them. But one thing we found that's been quite interesting is the amount of, on agency side, big agencies that don't go through or don't have anybody that looks at this type of thing with any great, I guess, conviction. Developing processes in line with UK or your own health and safety executive guidelines. And I think the other important one is to commit yourself fully to feedback. There's no point in asking, we all know, particularly when we're pitching for stuff, that it needs to be creative and wow to win the business, and then you start getting to the devil in the detail later on. But you might as well do that from the outset, and sharing expertise and processes.